I hope I can keep up with the energy that we have going on. So, I'll be telling you a couple of stories today, mainly about some of the travels that I've been doing in the past 1 year, and at the same time about setting up Maker's Asylum. So, hopefully it'll be fun. But before I start, how many of you guys actually make stuff? Anything from carpentry to making furniture to making Lego. How many of you guys build stuff or like building it? No architects in the house? Okay, fair enough. So if you guys like building stuff, especially you guys who raise your hands, I think you'll like my session because it's going to be more about all of that. And you might associate with me, so it's going to be fun. Okay. Uh, Before I get started, let me get over the technical stuff. So how many of you guys know what a makerspace is? I'm guessing none of you. Only this guy, because he works at one of them. But to get over the technical stuff, makerspaces are more like creativity and innovation spaces, which are sort of these huge spaces that have all sorts of tools from laser cutters, 3D printers, electronic labs, and carpentry in one space, and which are open for everyone to come and use. And the biggest thing about these spaces is the community and the people that come and use it. Because what's exciting about these spaces is they're open for artists, they're open for architects, they're open for designers to come explore these tools and at the same time try out their ideas. And that's what's super exciting about them. Anyways, getting back to my experiences. This space is called Artisans Asylum. Artisans Asylum is a makerspace that's based out of Boston in the United States. It's about the size of 2 cricket stadiums. It's that big. And it's this huge space that has all these labs inside it. There are artists, engineers, doctors, scientists, all working in one space, using the same tools, and at the same time creating beautiful little projects, anything from building a gigantic robot that they can sit on and ride, and I helped build the legs for this one, to making a 3-doodle pen, which is a 3D printing pen, and things like this. So people are getting together and building these amazing projects, which are sometimes open source or sometimes not. The device that I was working on that got me to this place was called Ainetra. It was a small device that was more like a virtual reality device that we were building. This is the company that I was working for right after I graduated. And it's more like a small handheld device, attaches to your smartphone, and with a couple clicks of a button, gives out your prescription so you can get your eyeglasses from that. And I was mainly working on the hardware of this device, and I used Artisans Asylum to build it. But that's not the first thing that I did over there. The first thing that I did over there was build a table. And that's the beautiful part about this space. Because I landed up over there randomly one day, and I took like all the wood and the screws and everything, and I just landed up over there. I didn't know how to make a table before that. I've never built one. And within one day, all these people who I'd never met before started helping me out, started giving me advice on how to maybe use the tools better, and how to maybe learn how to use some new tools, or how to make my table more steadier so it doesn't shake, or how to hide my tools on it. And that's the essence of working in this collaborative sort of a community space that was sort of falling into place, which was very, very beautiful. And by the end of the day, not only did I learn how to make the table and learn about half the tools that are there at the asylum in Boston, I also got to make so many friends, and we had pizza at the end, and we super fun. Okay, anyways, I'll talk about the rest of the story later, but let me show you some other spaces that are there out there. This one is called Noise Bridge. This one is based in San Francisco. It's founded by another really close friend of mine, Mitch Altman. The interesting thing about this space is that it's a community-run space entirely in the heart of San Francisco. So over there, when I mean community-run, it's people like you who are running the space and at the same time using it. And there are just donation boxes everywhere, and you put in the money, and you use whatever you want, and you go home. And the people sustain the space. There are no employees to the space. Everyone's working together to keep the space up and running all the time, no matter what it takes. And at the same time, using it and living over there and all sorts of things. On the other hand, this space is called Tech Shop. And Tech Shop has about 12 odd spaces around the world now. I would call this pretty much like a man's heaven if you like equipment. When you walk inside, it's flooded with machines like CNC machines, laser cutters again, 3D printers, all sorts of crazy machines, KUKA robots, and you can go and literally use anything you want. And it's just so gorgeous because you can see how this place is laid out. You just walk through it, and it's just aisles and aisles of machines that are just open for everyone to learn and use, and to build pretty much anything that you can dream of, which is super cool. Similarly, there's a place called Pier 9 in San Francisco again, and it's managed by Autodesk. The interesting thing over here is that Autodesk is running a hardware facility. So Autodesk usually is known for making its softwares, but interestingly, they understand the value of what their software is actually capable of, and hence they have this beautiful space that allows people to come and build stuff to showcase and to presume what they actually software can really do. They have really kick-ass equipment again over there, and they run this amazing artist in resident program as well. You guys should check it out if you're interested in going over there and working out of there. And they give you a bunch of money, and then you can make whatever you want. I think somebody was telling me that their sister was over there, which is pretty cool. Either ways, so this is there in San Francisco. They've got something like an 11-axis CNC machine. So do you guys know what CNC machines are? All right. So just imagine 11 axes on a CNC machine. That's how crazy the equipment is. It's so cool. Getting back, this was another space that we had in our college, which was a Tinker Lab. Having a spaces like these inside colleges and stuff are really, really cool again, because it allows students to sort of explore and make things, not just learn about them in their classes. So it was really cool to have a space like this. We made pretty much everything that was there inside my bedroom was made over here. All the furniture and everything, which is pretty cool. Fast forwarding to France. So a couple months back, the French government invited us to go to France and travel. And literally, this is what they told me. Go to France, spend a month, do whatever the hell you want. It's all on us. Come back, tell us what you want to do with India. That was the briefing that I was given. And I was just like, I was sitting over there and going like, yes, yes. When do I fly? And I just left. So over there, apart from having a super amount of fun living with all the French people and having a crazy time going traveling and everything, I got to visit some really cool spaces. Just want to talk about two of them. One of them is the Lab Fab in an art college. So I met this guy called John, this really, really cool maker again, who loves tinkering with electronics and making beautiful things. And the cool thing was that this guy was a part of an arts college. He was a teacher at the arts college. And he really, really wanted to get hardcore rapid prototyping machines like laser cutters and everything inside the college. But there was no space inside the college. So they got like a container yard and they put it outside the college and opened it for all the art students to come and play with it. And it's really beautiful to see artists use this kind of equipment, because I can remember from a long time back, I was teaching at this design school in Bombay called ISDI. I don't know if you guys know about it, India School of Design and Innovation. I was taking a course over there on engineering and design. So what we did was that we filled the room with about 6 designers and 6 engineers, and then we taught them rapid prototyping. What was really cool about this was that when we were teaching, when I was teaching the entire class, the engineers from the class, at the end of it, knew how to use the machine and make pretty much every exact thing how the machine works. But on the other hand, the designers were only imagining all the beautiful things that they could make out of the machine and paid no attention to how it works. And the engineers, on the other hand, by the end of it, they knew exactly how the machine works, but had no clue what to make with it. So that was really fun. And that's exactly what's beautiful about having equipment like this inside an art school, because the kind of collaborations and projects that come out of it are super beautiful. I'll show you some at the end. Then this is another one. It's called U Factory. This is in Lyon. Lyon is another very, very beautiful city in France. Actually, one of my favorite cities in France. The interesting thing about Lyon in general, side story, it's known to have 3 rivers. So there are 2 rivers that are merging in the middle of the city. The 3rd river is the river of wine, because they produce so much wine. Anyways, it's a very heritage city and it's a very beautiful city. But something that's really cool about this space over there is that one entire floor of the space is full co-working space, which is meant for people to take up and build stuff and do their hardware startups and general startup-y stuff. And at the ground floor, it's entirely just machines that people can use. And they had everything from screen printing to artists to textile labs, everything over there for people to actually go over there and get their hands dirty and experiment. Having the right tools at the right time is key. When you have that, then things become very easy to make. And they did it really well. Fast forwarding to Spain, so obviously now that I was in France, before I come back to India, I had to go to Barcelona. So went to Barcelona, went to EAC University, another architecture school for you guys. Really, really cool school. The cool thing about this school was the entire bloody school was a lab. And it's just literally all of it is a lab. And part of it is they have a fab lab over there in Barcelona as well, inside this university, which is super cool. And they have a KUKA robot sitting inside it. And this robot, have you guys heard about this robot, the KUKA robot? Anyone? No. Okay. It's this gigantic robotic arm that was developed in Germany, and there's a company that's producing it now. And now most of the cars these days are being used. This robot is being used to assemble most of the cars and to do a lot of work in the industry. But at the same time, it's a super cool robot because it's a thing that you can easily control the arm movements and make it do whatever you want. So for the next generation of the industry, it's a very, very valuable thing. And the fact that it's just sitting over there in the university and you can go and play with it is so much fun. So these guys got together and built this house. They call it the Fab House. And the entire house was constructed within this lab in pieces using rapid prototyping, like cut pieces, all designed on a computer and manufactured right there in the lab of the school. And after that, assembled outside in public with solar panels on the top. So super cool project, and it's public installation. Anyone can go sit inside it and have a great time. Fun space. Fast forwarding to Germany. So I came back from Spain after this, landed up in India, and immediately we get a call from this foundation in Germany called Bertelsmann Foundation. They go like, hey, do you want to come to Germany? We want you there for another Indo-German thing that's going on. So I said, whoops, I just came back from France. I can't just come back. What's wrong with you? They're like, you have 2 days, take a breather, get your ass over here. So I couldn't say no. So we take the next flight. I land back over there in Germany and did what I had to do. Did what I had to do, but very beautifully landed up in this space. It's called Seabase, and it's called the mother of all hackerspaces in the world. It was the first ever sort of a hackerspace, makerspace in the world. I'm so glad that I got to go here. It's super exciting. It's super dark. The entire thing does not have any lights that are out there. When you walk inside this place, you go through this sort of a doorwell, and there's an alien standing at the back, just sort of sitting over there chilling. I don't know. So it's super creepy as well when you're walking into the space, especially for the first time, because you're walking in and there's this alien over there. You look left and there are alien weapons and guns hanging on the wall. There are ancient computers. There are all these circuit boards hanging on the ceiling. And literally there's no one there to welcome you. Not a single soul. Nobody wants you there. Nobody wants to talk to you. And nobody wants you to take a single photograph. And that's Germany for you. So I landed up over there. Luckily, I knew some people, and somebody came down to say that, okay, fine, you know what, we will show you around. Otherwise, they don't do that. And literally, nobody spoke to me. Everyone was busy doing their own stuff, making their own things. And you walk around this place, and it's just this very interesting space. Everything is dark. I snuck 2 photographs over there. But the entire concept of the space was that they were building a spaceship, an alien spaceship that they were restoring underneath a residential complex. It's that crazy. And apart from making their own projects, which were also super cool, but I can't talk about this because otherwise I'll have to kill you, according to German rules. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to fast forward back to India. There's a super cool place over here as well, which is one of the first Fab Labs of India. It's called Vigyanashram. It's in Palwal, which is about an hour outside of Pune. It was started about 30 years back, but it wasn't a Fab Lab back then. It was more of an educational institute, but which was based on experimental learning to allow people to actually work with tools and do experimental projects and learn based on that. And they had these diplomas and stuff that they gave. So if you see that they have these gigantic solar cookers and solar panels and other things that they just made over there, which were very cool. And that's how they learned. And there is this Gaushala inside that space, which is very exciting because the way they teach their students mathematics is by weighing the cow in the morning, seeing how much milk it produced, seeing how much it pooped, and then weighing all of that and figuring out the yield. And that's how they actually taught their people in the village mathematics, which is pretty cool. And sooner than later, Fab Lab Foundation, which is again started at MIT, they came down and funded an entire lab over there with beautiful machines like laser cutters and 3D printers and everything. And now those guys are experimenting there as well. And people from all around the world are going and visiting there in the village and working with the locals to develop exciting projects, which is super cool. Either ways, getting to make as a Salem. Back to my story. All of this didn't really happen in that way, that I didn't travel all these places. I hadn't ever been to all of these places. I was just a boy who had graduated from Boston University as a mechanical engineer and a photographer. And then after that, I started working for this crazy group of people at Ainetra, which was sort of based out of the Media Lab and at the same time had an office outside and at Artisans Asylum. So we were like spread out in 3 different locations. But a small group of people, about 7, 8 of us, crazy people, like you can see. We were building that device that I showed you for eye diagnosis. They asked me to move back to India. And they said that, hey, why don't you go back to India? You understand the language. You go back and start developing this device over there, because obviously this device has more impact in India than it does in Boston. So I said, that's a superb idea. I would love to go back. And I packed my bags, and within a week, I took a flight, landed up in Mumbai. But once again, I'm not from Mumbai. I'm a Delhi boy. So we can fight later if you guys want. So I landed up in Mumbai. I didn't know anyone. This new boy back in Mumbai, trying to figure stuff out, was trying to prototype the device. But at the same time, we didn't have the same sort of a makerspace or a lab to be able to test out or make that device. We had to go through various service providers. And these were my friends in Marol who taught me how to use the lathe machine and everything and let me use their machines to be able to prototype the device. So I spent about 3 months in this shop learning and at the same time building the device. And while I was doing that, something really funny happened. The ceiling inside our office fell down. And it broke everything. This was the room that I used to sit in, which was more of the workshop at the back at Ainetra's office in India, in Bandra East to be precise. And the ceiling fell down. And I call up the landlord and I tell him that, listen, dude, the ceiling's fallen down. Can you fix this? What is this? And he sends the people. He goes like, okay, fine, I'll fix the ceiling, but I'm not going to buy you new tables. You go ahead and buy them yourself. The carpenter in me again woke up. I called some people. I asked my team to join me. They said, no, do it yourself. So I asked people on Facebook and Twitter and other places, just like you guys do, and created a small event to get people together to build some tables. And that day, 6 random people who had never met before showed up to help me build these tables. And then again, we celebrated at the end. We had some pizza and fun stuff. But the cool part was, the 6 people who came that day kept coming back. They kept coming back every Sunday to make anything from a water bottle bazooka to an LED cube to all sorts of fun projects. And we would just meet every Sunday and build stuff. It was just a fun hobby that was super exciting. But it came a point when, about a couple months later, that there was so much stuff expanding in that space, and we wanted to continue to build bigger projects and do more. So we went in search for looking for a new space that we could find, and at the same time, there were so many people now that we could just continue building stuff. So one of my friends happened to have a garage in Bandra, and in Bandra West this time, so we upgraded to, to get a small garage. This garage was about 250 square feet. It was at the back of a building. So we took it up. We said, done. She's like, take it. I said, perfect. She's like, pay me rent whenever you can. I was like, done. So we started taking the space, and immediately all of us started building tables and building the space. And within about a month or so, the space started looking like this. And people from all over Mumbai started coming, started building things over there. There were about 30 of us who had the key to the space. And literally, back then, I was still working at Ainetra, so the rent wasn't a big problem or whatever. So It's okay. Anatra, US salary, you know. So, so we would just go over there, 30 of us had the key, open it, build stuff, close the shop, 24/7, open. It was beautiful. Eventually, we had to leave from this place due to various reasons. I'm not going to get into that. And this time, we again went in search for looking for a space. And ISTI, the same school that I used to teach at, they offered us to move in over there. Oh shit. Okay. And we got this. This. Can you imagine this space is inside that swanky ass tower in Lower Parel, One India Bull Center. So we moved into One India World Center, this beautiful landmark tower, and we set up a garage inside it. Yes. And we didn't pay any rent. We didn't pay for electricity. We were like pirates inside that space, which was the fun part. And it was super fun. We were there for about a year almost. And by this time, we started hosting workshops in different fields. Like some people from the community started doing woodworking workshops, leather making, all sorts of things. So people started hosting these workshops to raise money for the space so that we could buy more tools. And at the same time, people started building projects so that we could again raise money for the space and do other things. So we eventually ended up buying our own laser cutter. We had a bunch of 3D printers at this point, and we had like an electronic setup. All of that, all just because of the people who were coming and using the space, and at the same time building it together. And most of these guys still come over there, and they're a part of our space. But either which ways, moving forward, because we had a bunch of time now, because we didn't have to worry about rent and electricity, we ended up setting up a space in Delhi. So this space exists in Delhi. It's in Malviya Nagar. You guys should check it out. The cool part about this space is that this is the front of the building, and a couple of friends from the Street Art Delhi, Start Delhi Association. Have you heard of them? They paint walls.
Gorilla.
There you go. So these guys got together and they painted the front of the building. Madhuvanti mainly did this from Something Sketchy. Excitingly, it says pass it on, half in Hindi, half in English, if you can figure out how it says.
Parcel.
Pass it on. So pass it on is more of our philosophy of passing on the knowledge and passing on the creativity. But more importantly, it's our Wi-Fi password. Just so you know. So next time you come there, you know how to log into the Wi-Fi. So we set up that space, and now Delhi is also building a beautiful community of its own and doing its own thing. And it's coming together. Soon after that, it was time to move out of the beautiful swanky tower inside Lower Prayer. So we raised a crowdfunding campaign to raise some funds to be able to set up our own new home that could be open 7 days a week and do more things over there and be more independent. So, and ISDI also wanted to get more space, so they asked us to do other things. Anyways, so we raised a crowdfunding campaign, we moved out of that space, and the beautiful part was the guys who funded at the crowdfunding campaign came down to build the space. When I mean build the space, they literally came together to build, plaster the walls, to put up the lights, to fix all the chairs and everything. Everything was done by all of us, and we spent about a month doing this. And instead of paying for labor or anything else, we paid for pizza. And every night we had pizza. And every night we built. And this went on for about a month. It was super fun. And now when you come to the space, it looks something like this. The one on the left. That's where Girish works. So if you come to the space, it looks something like this. And as you walk into the space, you'll see the elements of the fact that how people actually own this space and how they work out of there. But the cool thing is, now it has a bunch of equipment. It has an entire 3D printing lab. It has about 8 3D printers. It's got a laser cutting lab. It's got an entire electronics setup. It's got a textile section. It's got a proper woodworking lab, and we have a couple of sponsors as well. So like the wood lab is sponsored by Bosch and Dremel now. 3D printers are sponsored by Imaginarium. There is an entire section. Autodesk is also one of the guys who pushes in a lot of different parts of the space. So because of all of that, we're able to sustain the space and at the same time open it for everyone so that you guys can come and build stuff. But another cool thing is that a lot of artists also set up their studios inside the space. So like there are a bunch of artists. There's this girl, she makes custom gifts for people. So she set up her own studio inside the space. And she makes stuff and she sells it outside from there. I'll tell you a little more. So, but if you look at our story, how we've progressed, it's never really been about a space. The space has only gone bigger, but it's never really been about the tools because the tools came later. It was more about the people coming together. Just like how you guys are sitting over here. It's about everyone being close and tight together. And that's what really got about the space, the community, the food, the barbecues. Those are the main things that we're very proud of. And that got our little community together. And all of a sudden, this Delhi boy knew some people in Bombay, which is pretty cool. uh, but let me give you a little bit of statistics over here. One more boring slide for you guys, but pretty cool. We facilitate over 200 projects at this space. We have enabled about 10 startups at the space. When I mean enabled, they've worked out of there, we've pushed them out, we've helped them in their crowdfunding campaigns. We have hosted over 200 people every week at the space, which is pretty good. And at the same time, we've had hundreds and hundreds of events and workshops and training sessions for people like you to come and learn various different skills. So, hey, that's pretty good. Now let me give you a couple of examples of the kind of stuff that people build over there so that you guys don't think I'm talking all gibberish. So this is Khyati. She makes leather notebooks and leather bags. And she does like all these amazing stuff with leather. And she uses a laser cutter at the asylum to etch and cut pieces and makes these things over there, like these notebooks, these travel notebooks. Her brand is called the Black Canvas. Recently, she also took all her scrapped leather that she had lying around and she made this huge installation at the back of the asylum, because people do that, they just name a wall at the asylum. She named a wall at the asylum and she made her installation over there and made the world map with scrap leather, laser cut. There's a doctor, this is Dr. Modi. He is an ophthalmologist. So ophthalmologists, those guys who test your eyes, once again. And so he came down to the space, met a bunch of people, started collaborating with them, and made these small adapters for his existing setup inside his clinic so that he could, he 3D printed these pieces so that they could take images of people's retinas, so at the back of your eyes. Again, using a small little adapter, so very cool. Simple Jugaad innovation, and now he's selling it, and he's, I think, giving some talks in San Francisco and doing amazing stuff. There's Claire in a part-time in Delhi. She comes to the space whenever she's free, and she makes prosthetic limbs for little kids who don't have hands, and she 3D prints them and gives it to them. She used to take about 1 month to make one, and then she would just give it to somebody who doesn't have a hand, and that's it. That's her. You should be clapping for her, not for me. Anyways, there is these guys in Bombay, they're building a satellite ground station called the SatNox project. Interesting thing, the guys who are building it, the guy who started it is a civil engineer. So he's got no background with electronics. And now he's working with retired engineers and a group of like 20 odd people. And they've been building this satellite ground station that all these CubeSats that are going up in the sky, which are open source satellites that people are sending up, so they can capture data from them, open source data, which is totally legal, and use it. I promise. There are a lot of filmmakers who come to the asylum. So, have you heard of Anand Gandhi?
Yes.
Okay, so he comes to the asylum all the time. He's a good friend of ours. The Ship of Theseus is one of his movies, but he's building a bunch of robots over there and other stuff which I can't talk about. But this is pretty cool. So he's doing a lot of work in virtual reality. And so these are some of the camera rigs that he's printed at the asylum. So these are used to mainly take 3D movies, make virtual reality movies using GoPros. So when he was in his testing phases, they used the space to be able to do things like that. There's a lot of healthcare diagnostics that goes on at the asylum, thanks to me, I guess, because back life, past life. So all those guys from my old friends still come to the asylum. So this is pretty cool. That toothbrush that you see has a little camera inside it. It's got an IR sensor, so infrared sensor. So what that does is when you're brushing your teeth, based on your reflective parts of your teeth, it's a stupid idea, it's a crazy idea, but it's super fun. Based on your reflective properties of your teeth, it can tell you when to go and see a doctor or when not to. That's it. That guy is building a air diagnostic device. It's a small otoscope. Have you gone to a doctor before? They pull your ear and they stick this thing inside your ear and look inside it. No? Yes? Okay, good. Most of you guys, good. So that guy is basically taken exactly that using a digital camera. So a lot of people have done that. It's nothing new. But cool thing, he put it on a headphone. That's pretty cool now. So he took a headphone, he hacked it, he put that digital otoscope inside a headphone. So what that means is, especially for little kids who are moving around or like crying, it moves relative to your head all of a sudden. Ooh, isn't that fancy? So it's taking your image still if you're moving. It's the camera is moving relative to your head. It's pretty cool. We had a wow orgasmic moment when that happened. Uh, these guys are building a small sleep apnea device. It's a long story. Do you know about sleep apnea? All right, most of you guys do. You have sleep apnea? There you go. So he'll tell you about sleep apnea because there's a problem with sleep apnea. Apart from the fact that you wake up like 100 times in an hour when you're sleeping, the problem with sleep apnea is that the only way to test it. Am I running out of time? 5 minutes more? Yeah, perfect. So the funny thing about sleep apnea is the only way to test it is you have to go to the hospital and they put all these sensors all over your body, and then there's a nurse that sits next to you, and they tell you to go and sleep normally. You will tell us, please.
Yeah.
You've had a sleep study.
Yeah.
Okay. So now these guys, what they did is they talked to a bunch of guys, went with some MIT folks and everything, to various doctors and everything, to ask the doctors that, okay, fine, you're getting all these 20 readings. Do you care about all of them? And they figured out that really, especially the nurse who's checking, she only cares about 3 readings. And the rest of them are checked with the doctor. Okay? They're important. They're very important. But 3 are extremely important to say yes or no. Go to the doctor or not to go to the doctor. So these guys made a small mask that takes only those 3 signs, those 3 vital signs. And at least now you can screen patients before telling them you need to see a doctor, you don't need to see a doctor. So you like immediately pass on like 50% of like at least 80% of the patients who don't really need to see the doctor, and they can just get a test, which is pretty cool. Okay. Fun project, C3PO, Star Wars fans? Come on. All right, good, fair enough. So for those of you guys who don't know, this is C3PO from the movie Star Wars. The head is still kept at the asylum. Girish will show you the next time you land up over there. Hopefully you guys do. So this project is super fun because 5 of us got together to make this. It was during a barbecue at the space, and there was an origami artist. He's won 5 Limca Book records for the best origamis, by the way. A sculptor, electronics engineer, a mechanical engineer, a spray painter were sitting together, and we were just talking about a project to make. And we came up with an idea to make a C3PO robot with origami and 3D printed parts and robotics that made it walk or move. And then we displayed it at various companies like Godrej and stuff. And we told them, give us money because we're giving you entertainment. And used all that money to buy the laser cutter at the asylum. And that's why the laser cutter at the asylum is called the Death Star. All right. Last project that I'm going to really quick talk about. This is right now at Maker Mela at Samaya College. But super cool project. It's the Maker Auto. And Maker's Asylum also has a Maker in Residence program where you can come, you can spend about 6 months at the space and work on whatever project you like, and we'll figure out with you how we can fund it. So that's pretty cool. So you get a funded project. So this one, for example, was funded by Autodesk, and this guy Kobe had come down, and with Mayur and Nikhil, they got together, and he had this crazy, wacky idea that he wanted to take a rickshaw and put gullwing doors like a Lamborghini on it, and put tools inside it so that he could take what happens at Maker's Asylum out into the public and to places where Maker's Asylum can't reach, and they can build stuff and at the same time do workshops like learn to solder or make pipe lamps or do some fun workshops. So not only did he go crazy, but he picked up an entire auto. We bought it inside the asylum using a crane. There are videos for all of this on our Facebook page. You should check it out. It was super mad fun. Girish can tell you stories as well. And he's laughing right now, that's why. I just looked at him. And they got this auto, they put it down in the asylum. 6 months of madness and welding and cutting and fire and sparks and all of those things happened. And that's how it looks now. And it's sitting in Maker Mela right now. And then after that, it's going for a roadshow and everywhere. Pretty cool project. The apart from that, a lot of interesting projects have happened. Architecture installations, the gift that was given to the Duke and the Duchess when they came to India was made at the asylum by architects. Duke and Duchess from England when they came at Social. So Social is a good friend, so they keep giving us free food. Other crazy projects, drones all the time. There are a bunch of guys who work on drones. So no matter how crazy or wacky your ideas is, if it matters to you, that's all that really matters. So please go out there and build stuff.
Thanks, Vaibhav. This was really inspiring. Maybe we have time for a couple of quick questions, if any. Please raise your hands. We have one.
Yeah, good evening. I just want to know, it's very interesting and no doubt inspiring. How are the projects identified and funded? Just brief information. What exactly? Yeah.
We don't fund the projects. It's your project. You fund it. And you like it, you make it, and you have the space to make it, and the tools to make it, and the people who can. Actually, you'll have to make friends yourself. We don't even promise you make friends over there. But that's the point of the space. You come there, Girish is there, other people are there, and I promise you, if you start making something, everyone's going to help you out. But you have to be friendly. And apart from that, the projects are funded by you because they're your projects.
But how do you account for the costs involved in running the project? Say electricity, space, other things, everything.
So the space and everything, yes, you do pay a membership fee. That's your contribution to the space, and but that's not really what covers it all, because obviously we have a 8,000 square foot facility in Bombay, which is huge, and with Bombay rents, it's pretty crazy. So we have a lot of support from different companies as well, which subsidize those rates further and further, and so there is a fee of 4,000 rupees for adults who are working and 2,000 rupees for students per month, and they get trained on everything. We train you on everything, all the tools, and after that, you just go ahead and build stuff. And yeah, and in certain cases, if some people can't afford it, they volunteer at the space, and they give us some of their time to do some of the asylum activities, and they work for free, and they can build their projects. So that's also right.
Okay, maybe we can meet after this event. Thank you.
What did you enjoy making in your workshop?
I enjoy making. Oh, so many things. But lately, I haven't been making too much. That's the sad part of all of this, because when you start building the space, then you get too engrossed in building the space and you don't really get to make stuff. And that's what I was talking to Girish at the start of the talk, that, dude, I don't remember the last time when I made something. And he knows this, because I'm just running around like a headless chicken trying to make sure that the space is surviving and doing well. But the last thing that I made was actually a bunch of tables, was the devices. I make a lot of camera equipment for photography, because I love photography. I helped in the C3PO robot that you saw. That was fun. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.